Sabrina Carpenter is well on her way to becoming one of the biggest artists of our generation, and it seems like this huge rise to fame of hers has happened in just the last couple years, even though she's been releasing music for a very long time now. All of a sudden, she went from just another pop girl to the person everyone cannot stop talking about. Why only now is she finally being recognized for all her hard work and talent over the years? Well, it really all started with this album right here, Emails I Can't Send. From the way it was crafted, followed by an era of concerts and promotion, to the altogether recreation of who Sabrina Carpenter really is in the public eye. This whole era is what really transformed Sabrina Carpenter into pop stardom. This album genuinely changed everything for her, and everyone knows it, whether you've been a fan for a while and saw her blow up over the course of this era, or whether you're joining in now. And in this video, I want to spend some time talking about various aspects of this album that make it such a successful, powerful, emotional story and era, and how this helped Sabrina pretty much rebrand herself in the public eye as this relatable, funny young artist that tons of people have now latched onto. She went from that girl from Girl Meets World,
they want to see if I have autism. You don't.
To pop star. And once you really get to understand this album, you'll see why. She established herself as a songwriter. She said she's serious about this and she wants to be taken seriously. People did finally take her seriously, and seeing how people were really latching on to her more relatable, goofier, younger, funnier, unfiltered side, she capitalized on that and made that her whole persona. And so in order to understand that, we need to start with understanding this album itself. First, this album is entirely devoted to the songwriting. Sabrina herself said during the build-up to this album that she was looking for reinvention. She signed on to a new record and she wanted to start new as a songwriter. And looking at this album versus her previous work, you can very clearly see this reinvention. Her previous albums were more focused on just kind of creating fun pop music, whereas this album is all about the writing. It's all about the heart that you can tell was so clearly poured into it. First, let's start with the title track, which really gets at the crux of this album's message and core. This was inspired by an email she wrote to herself and explores, from a daughter's point of view, how her cheating father has ruined her ability to love. Like, this is such a 180 pivot from her previous work. It's immediately much more heartfelt, much more personal. It's just one big string of thought as well. This song is not really a structured pop song, but it's just a way to introduce all the themes of this album. Deception, miscommunication, fear, betrayal, longing. These are the emotions that are set up in this song and that underlie the entire album. In fact, that's what the title itself of this track and of the whole album is. The idea of writing emails that you can't send is all about wanting to say something to someone, but just not being able to. And that gets me to my next point. The reason this album works so well is because it's cohesive. Everything about it comes back to these same themes of miscommunication, confusion, and longing. Vicious. How can someone turn their back on me so easily when I didn't really even do anything wrong? Read your mind. How am I supposed to know what this person wants from me in this relationship? Tornado warnings. How can I be honest with the people trying to help me when I don't even know how I myself feel? Because I liked a boy. Yeah, this song is pretty self-explanatory. Already over, literally the chorus has the central question itself, so I don't even need to say it. How many things? Once again, the question is already in the song. What I'm trying to show is that all these songs are just Sabrina getting in her head about all these things around how other people see her and not knowing how to feel. And this is around where the album pivots away from asking questions to trying to answer them. Bet you wanna, maybe this guy still wants me and I shouldn't be so in my head about it. Nonsense. Okay, this one doesn't really fit the narrative, but we'll talk about it later. Fast times. Maybe I should just accept that this is how relationships work. You're in and out, and you just gotta move on. In fact, I love this little detail of continuity she includes here. Nonsense ends with this.
Most of these aren't gonna make...
Where she had all these random fun outtakes and is saying she doubts they're actually going to make it into the song, but she cuts herself off, and then we get into Fast Times, which has this line. No time for rewrites, we couldn't help it. She's literally saying she didn't have time to rewrite those outtakes from Nonsense because these are fast times, you just have to keep moving forward. It's so brilliant. Skinny dipping is where Sabrina finally starts to put the nail in the coffin and be done with all this confusion and betrayal. The concept of skinny dipping is a metaphor for being vulnerable, finally coming to terms with what happened and moving forward, rather than being stuck in the past. And Bad for Business and Decode really cement that message. I love the way she goes from never been so glad to be so tired to I'm so tired. Just another Another great detail emphasizing the continuity of this album, and then the way it loops back to the start from making a video to her future self to wishing she could just look into the past. And the deluxe tracks are all great as well. They continue to explore this theme in their own ways, whether they're about wondering what could have been or moving forward. I especially love Things I Wish You Said because that's literally the crux of the album. The idea of dwelling on all these things that could have happened and these feelings you don't know the other person felt, but having to let it all go and accepting the fact that you'll just never know. Stylistically and sonically, this album is also very cohesive. A lot of the songs utilize this kind of sing-songy spoken word type of lyricism that emphasizes the conversational and free-form nature of the lyrics.
It'll be a Wednesday, I'll be going to this coffee shop. We were never in the park, talking on a seesaw, teetering with our feelings in the dark. But I'll keep that between you and I. Oh, so you do have a type, and it's not me. Oh, so you can reply, just to not me.
Which goes back to this idea of all these songs being emails she wrote to herself, but never sent to the people they're actually written for. Anyways, that was all more so an excuse for me to just talk about this album that I love, and I kind of breezed through the songs, because what I'm trying to show is how well done this album is through its cohesion. You can tell she spent a lot of time crafting this. The messages, the writing, the sound, and it all came together so cohesively and so nicely, making for an album that deserved to be talked about and ultimately lent itself to Sabrina's rise to fame. When you have a really cohesive setup, when you have all these songs that are stylistically similar and tying into this overall idea, you can build an era off of that, and that is exactly what she did. Not only that, but it's also an immensely relatable album to a lot of young people going through similar things. Situationships are apparently the new thing now, and this album is literally just about one giant situationship. So through this album, Sabrina was able to show herself as someone who goes through the same feelings and hardships as other young adults. And this is really where she began crafting this image of relatability that I think is really what got her to where she is now. That leads me to the second point. This album perfectly maneuvered the internet drama she was in. When celebrities get caught in internet drama, the way they maneuver that drama can have a huge impact on how people see them going forward and thus their career as a whole. Because at the end of the day, a celebrity's career depends on their public image, and the media has a ton of weight over that. And this is where Emails I Can't Send comes in once again, because as you may remember, Emails I Can't Send was not the first response to all the drama, it was Skin, a song she released fully on its own. Now I do love this song, but in terms of maneuvering the internet heat she was in, I don't think this did what needed to be done for a couple main reasons. First, this was released as its own song, like I said, so it was very clearly directed towards the situation she was in, rather than being part of a bigger project. Second, the lyrics on this are pretty obviously about the situation and kind of feel directed at Olivia Rodrigo herself. Sabrina has said time and time again, it's not about her, it's about the media, it's about the general public turning their back on her. However, by releasing this song, all this really did was cement Sabrina Carpenter's ongoing reputation as that girl who has beef with Olivia Rodrigo. But then we got Emails I Can't Send, which has songs like Vicious and Because I Like to Boy. They're more targeted toward the media, they're more self-reflective, vulnerable, and mature, and they're part of the bigger project, Emails I Can't Send. So these songs also address the situation, but instead they cement her reputation as a songwriter. And this makes a huge difference, because I think this was really crucial to her recreating her public image and moving away from everyone just seeing her as that girl who stole Olivia Rodrigo's boyfriend. I know it might sound like I'm over-exaggerating this, but if you were there for this, you know exactly what I'm talking about. For a long time, this was all she was known for. So again, Emails I Can't Send was crucial to maneuvering this situation carefully, taking the attention she got from this situation and holding on to it by showing fans and the public how she can be vulnerable and relatable, and ultimately someone who should be taken seriously as a pop star and as a songwriter.
I don't even know I'm talking nonsense. I'm talking.
That brings me to the third and final point, which is what she did with the era as a whole. As she was on tour, the album slowly started to gain traction, people were taking note of her as a songwriter and vocalist, and I really want to focus on that tour in particular, because I think her concerts and her stage presence was the final thing that sold her to the public and made her blow up. Like I said earlier, this album is, I think, very relatable to younger audiences. It's about situationships, it's about miscommunication, and I think Sabrina really capitalized on that that opportunity at her concerts. One thing she'd do during the emails tour is she'd take a moment during each concert to talk to someone in the audience about a relationship story they had or a situationship most of the time. And I think this was a major step for her because, first of all, those clips were going viral online, and second of all, it added to this image of relatability. It showed she can sympathize with the stories her fans are going through. She's gone through the same things. She's just like one of us.
What's your name? Haley. And what's your name? Joshua. She said
There was also another thing she's been doing at her concerts that really elevated her image to the public and transformed this era, and you probably know what I'm talking about. Sabrina herself described Nonsense as a song she just wanted to have on the album for fun.
Kind of just like, we're hitting a lot of walls, and we're like, you know what? Let's just literally write nonsense. No joke. And that's how the song happened.
That pretty starkly contrasts the rest of the album, which is very serious, as we've been through. However, a lot of people latched onto this song in particular, probably because it's catchy as hell, but also because at her concerts she would do the new outro every time for Nonsense. And this really became a staple of her concerts because they were funny and unfiltered, which not only allowed for them to go insanely viral, but also allowed Sabrina to push this image she was creating for herself. This relatable, funny celebrity who says random, unfiltered shit when she feels like it. This made her more likable, it made her more interesting. And as Nonsense took off, she did not let this opportunity slide. She made it a single, she made a music video, she had the Naughty Christmas version, and now you've probably heard the song a million times, whether you wanted to or not. It's interesting because Sabrina has always been charming and relatable. She's been an actor and celebrity for a long time. She knows how to work the public, but something that this era allowed her to do, I think, is lean very heavily into the humor as one of her defining features that makes her stand out from the crowd. As we talked about, Emails I Can't Send is very heartfelt, and all the singles from this album, Skinny Dipping, Vicious, Fast Times, they aren't ballads per se, but they're very heartfelt and sad in their own ways, tackling all the things we went over about the media, about heartbreak. But over time, the song that took off the most was Nonsense, which is the one funny shits and giggles track of the album. And by capitalizing on that, she was able to craft the new Sabrina Carpenter. And now her new lead singles on the upcoming Short and Sweet album are the exact opposite tone from the Emails I Can't Send singles. Espresso and Please 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 are both funny songs at their core, intentionally playing up this humor that Sabrina is so well known for now. And I think we all know how well this worked out for her. She's doing absolutely incredibly on the charts. People can't stop talking about her. This is the beginning of a new era for Sabrina Carpenter. This album was undoubtedly a critical moment in Sabrina Carpenter's career. Did she want to continue being that Disney Channel girl who has a good voice and decided to start making music? Did she want to be that blonde girl from the Olivia Rodrigo song that only would get to shine when the media wanted her to? The reason this album worked so well is because she shifted away from those things through the songwriting and was able to show vulnerability, maturity, and relatability, which tons of people began to latch onto. The title track and opening to this album is a very heartfelt ballad about how she fears her own past has screwed her over permanently, and the whole album hinges around the idea of not being able to express herself truly for any variety of reasons, always keeping secrets and overanalyzing what others think of you. This allowed her to establish herself as a songwriter who was serious about her craft. And I'm not at all trying to diminish her accomplishments before this. I mean, Singular Act 1 is incredible, and she has had her moments in the spotlight for sure, but this album is really where it all took off. And now through this era, she's been able to recreate herself as the pop star persona she is now. Through this crazy evolution occurring within the span of just a year or two, her going on her Emails I Can't Send tour, followed by opening for the Eras tour, this is really where she and her team began to craft the new Sabrina Carpenter. Both these songs are incredibly fun with much goofier lyrics than the lead singles from Emails I Can't Send. It kind of feels like a total 180 from what she just gave us, but it's directly building off the success from Emails I Can't Send. I'm super excited to see how Short and Sweet turns out. I also am pretty sure there's going to be a third single for this album, so I'm very excited to see what comes up with that. But yeah, I kind of just wanted to talk about Emails I Can't Send. I've been wanting to talk about this album, but I hope this helps make a little more sense of how Sabrina Carpenter got to where she is now and where she's headed in the future, and I can't wait to see what she does. That's all for this one, keeping it short and sweet, at least compared to my other stuff. Okay, bye!
I'm sorry.